Hi, everybody. My name is Jessica Crawford, and I'm a news anchor and business attorney. And I'm so excited to be speaking at the second annual Trademark Thursdays Summit. It's happening April 29th and April 30th. I'm going to be talking all about how you can pitch your brand to media outlets, and it'll help you generate notoriety for free. It'll also help you be more known in your community, and who doesn't love free CLE credits? So make sure that you sign up for the second annual Trademark Thursdays Summit, and make sure to follow Trademark Thursdays on Instagram. Hello, and thank y'all so much for watching today. My name is Jessica Crawford, and I am a news anchor and I'm an attorney. And I'm super glad to be sharing this presentation with you today. It's all about how to pitch your brands and your clients' brands to news outlets. And so just a little bit of a background on me. I have worked at several different news affiliates. I've worked at CBS affiliates, Fox affiliates, as well as ABC. And I have a background in news that has been pretty much going for about a decade. And just during my time in the news space, I realized just the importance of attorneys, and that we guys, us as journalists, we really need y'all to help inform the public. And it's good for attorneys to communicate with journalists and be on the news because it helps attorneys out too, and it can really, really help your clients as well. So thank you all so much for watching today. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so this presentation is all about, again, pitching your brands to news outlets. And here's what we're going to be talking about today. Today's agenda, number one, we're starting out with why it's important to work with news organizations. We're going to be talking about how a newsroom works. We're going to talk about some newsworthy content, basic story components, how you can identify the big story that you do have, and how to reach out to a news outlet, and that will include a template as well. So first of all, here is why you should be working with media outlets. Number one, it's a service to the community. So as an attorney, you're on the cutting edge of what is happening within the legal community. There are a lot of things that attorneys deal with and they just seem like everyday things to us, but they can be new for news viewers. And so it's helping to keep the public informed. That's one huge reason why you should be working with news outlets. Also, it can be a service to your client in some situations, not particularly in the situations of being in trial or anything like that, but in other situations, especially business attorneys, some media coverage for your client can be a huge extra service that you can give to them. And journalism, it really helps provide a voice to the people who need it the most. And so if you're in a situation to where shedding some light on your client's situation could help them just have a better situation, then perhaps journalism is the route that you should take. Also, journalism is equal access. So it's not about the people with the most money being covered. It is about people who are doing things that matter being covered. And so that means that it's free. Journalism is free. It's equal access. You have the power to access it, and we're going to tap in to how you can do that. So let's talk a little bit about how a newsroom works. So in newsrooms, there are these things called editorial meetings. And in these editorial meetings, there are managers and they're deciding what is going to run on the news that day. And so how they do that is they look at the event calendars that they put together. That comes from just various like flyers or PR people reaching out to the news and letting us know about different things that are coming up. Also, it has to do with breaking news. For example, if there's something like big car crashes, shootings, something like that that's breaking that wasn't planned on, they factor that into the plan as well. And they also factor into the plan, and this is where you will come in, into reporters' pitches. So you want to make sure that you are pitching your ideas, your brand, or your client's brand to those reporters for those 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. meetings that they are going to be presenting their pitches to their managers. So these story pitches, reporters are pretty much just like keeping their fingers crossed the whole time they're making these story pitches. Yes, reporters have to find their own stories, and so that's not the easiest thing to always do, but generally we have to come in with at least about 2 stories so that we can present that to our managers, and that's pretty much your bread and butter as a reporter, what stories you have. So after we make those pitches, we're just hoping that the newsroom manager will be good with what we have. If that's the case, we get on the phone, we start making calls. A lot of reporters these days actually shoot their own stories. Like they take a camera, they go shoot their own story, they're editing their own story, they're putting a lot of stuff together. So really, a lot starts and ends with reporters. So I would definitely suggest getting to know a reporter if you want to make media a part of the way that you approach the law, a part of the way that you want to help your clients and that you want to help yourself, then definitely it's good to get to know reporters. So now let's talk about some of the things that make a story newsworthy. Here's what makes a story newsworthy. There are 5 things. It's timeliness, proximity, controversy, as well as human interest and relevance. Okay, so let's talk about timeliness. Timeliness is something that is happening that day, happening that week. For example, timeliness, I have a trial today. Please come if y'all can make it. Here's what this trial is about. It's happening at 1. Also, proximity. So here's one issue. It's really, really important. A lot of times we get distracted by like national networks and that kind of thing. It's really important to lean in to your own local news organizations, contact them and see if they would be interested in covering your story. That is pretty much the number one way to go ahead and get that media coverage, reaching out to news organizations in your own city. Because as reporters, we have to cover local events. The more local, the better. The more it affects our communities, the better. That's what local news is all about. So proximity is very important. Controversy, highlighting problems and differences in opinion. As much as people may say that they may not like to see controversy or things like that on the news, that is honestly something that is newsworthy. For example, there was controversy after the unfortunate killing of George Floyd. All of that was newsworthy. It was newsworthy to show that people were protesting. And there have been a lot of legal events that have happened in connection with that, that it would be very valuable for journalists to interview lawyers so that the public can get a better understanding of what's happening in these situations. So human interest, and that's the thing that people really, really enjoy. Stories about the human spirit, something inspiring, something heartbreaking, something unique. We all love these types of stories. And the thing is that either you or your clients often have that type of story. So a lot of you may be trademark attorneys, so you're business lawyers. The fact of the matter is that you're working with a lot of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs usually have these like huge personalities. They have these huge spirits. It's taken a lot for them to put they put their lives into their businesses, and usually they have these amazing stories. So tap into that, tap into their spirit, their personality, and use that as something that can help them to get media coverage. Relevance. Attorneys are full of information that can help people address specific issues in their lives. So a lot of what you're sharing is going to be relevant. It's going to be important to what's happening to people right now. And so these are the 5 components of what really makes a news story. So some basic news story components are having the character and having the expert. So we talked about, okay, for a business lawyer, some of the people that we work with are clients. Like I said, they can have big personalities, they have big goals, really interesting backgrounds. Someone like that is a great character for a story, to put at the center of a news story. And when someone is doing a news story, especially if it's human interest based, they're really looking for that person who is going to be memorable and who's going to really drive the point of that news story home for the viewers. And so that's what that character is all about. The expert is you. You're the person who can explain why a problem is a problem. And of course, I do need an H in that slide, so I'm so sorry about that. But you're the person who explains why the problem is a problem. And so really, news stories hinge on those 2 things. A lot of times we can go as a news reporter and present to our managers, hey, there's something going on. They're going to ask you, okay, what's the people angle? What's the people angle of that story? What's the person who can tell about their hardship? Like, what's the person who's going through this problem? We can really only tell a story if we have that person at the center of it. And so that's what the character is all about. So here are some types of stories. Events are always a story. Something like, the Houston Rodeo. Okay, that's a huge story. Back to school, that's an event. That's a huge story. Addressing an issue. So a person with a problem that needs to be fixed. Lawyers, we're full of that. We have plenty of people who have problems that need to be fixed. A lot of times, these can be a news story. There's also a combination of these things. You, as an attorney, can create an event to address a problem that needs to be solved. So now we're going to talk a little bit about finding your story. So here's step 1 to kind of think about, what is a story? So step 1, think about, is there anything that you're passionate about in your community? For example, you might say, okay, kids in my neighborhood have no place to play. Kids in my neighborhood have no place to play. And so that means that they're playing in the streets and that they're very capable of getting hit by cars. In fact, a child recently got hit by a car on my street, and I'm very concerned. And I think that kids should have a proper place to play. That can be your step 1. Step 2, what can you do to make an impact? Can you start the ball rolling on possibly making a playground in your own community? Or perhaps are you helping a client who's trying to get permits to make a playground or some kind of recreational center for the kids in their community? Well, guess what? That's a news story. You can start the process of making an impact by telling your client, hey, if I was to pitch this to a news organization, would you be willing to talk with me about why you want to make this playground, why you want to make this recreation center? And also, let's get somebody from this neighborhood who's dealing with the fact that their kids are playing out here in the street. They're susceptible to being hit by cars. Let's bring all this information to this news organization and let them know what we're doing here. There's so many stories that are out there, and so often people do not really understand or know that they do have a story, or so many stories that they're really just sitting on, stories that can help their clients and stories that can help themselves as well. So if you are looking for story ideas for business lawyers, here are just a few. First of all, rebranding. So are you working with a small business that had to do a rebrand? So you can do a story that kind of serves as a PSA for other businesses. So what this can do is twofold. This can, number one, give your client promotion on the fact that yes, they are having to change and they are having to rebrand, but it lets people know that they're rebranding and what their new brand is going to be. It also helps you be that expert in your community on business owners and some of the threats that exist for business owners, which are, okay, if you don't have your trademark stuff together, you could have to rebrand. So that's one story idea. Another story idea is starting a business. So this hits our timeliness component. National Small Business Week is May 1st through May 7th. So right now is the perfect time to pitch to a news outlet a story about helping somebody start a small business, a story about step-by-step, what do people need to do if they're interested in entrepreneurship, if they're interested in being a business owner. That's also a great time to feature a client that you helped them step-by-step start their business. Also, closing the gap. So there is a wealth gap between white and minority business owners, and I did also make sure to provide in your outline, I'm providing links to different statistics and things like that, so that you can really see how big of a problem this really is. So closing the gap could be a great news story. There is a wealth gap between white and minority business owners. Intellectual property has a lot to do with that. And so you can share, the story of a minority business owner that you helped. You can share some of those stats behind that wealth gap and what can be done in your community to help fix that. Great time to highlight a client, great time to highlight the expertise that you have yourself. Next, highlighting a mom. Mother's Day is coming up. So this is one of those human interest type of stories. Find an inspirational business owner who's a client of yours that you helped, who's a mom who started up her business and that you helped her with it. And she can be able to speak to the news organization about what it's like to own a business as a mother, that more and more mothers are owning businesses every day. So that is hard news. That is a key statistic. And it's also just that kind of feel-good story of, wow, look at the amazing things that this mom has done. Great time to also highlight your expertise on, of course, how to start a business, what it's like to own a business. So reaching out to a news outlet. So you might see on the news, okay, if you have a tip, call 222 tips or something like that, and give us your news tip. Let us know what's going on in your community. All of that is a really great thing. I do think that the tip line is a very, very valuable tool, but I would use the tip line as the last thing that I do. I suggest that if you want to build connections with your local media and you want to be seen as like an expert, in your community from the media, and you want to be able to highlight your clients using the media, I do suggest that you pick out maybe one or two reporters from each station to develop a relationship with and reach out to them specifically. And you can identify reporters on social media and you can add them. And so one way that you can identify who reporters are, if you don't watch the news very much, one thing that you can do is you can go onto a website, that station's website, and there should be something on something that you can select called Meet the Team. And so when you see Meet the Team, it's going to lay out everyone who is on air. So you can go and kind of comb through their social media, that kind of thing, see if what they cover is something that you're interested in pitching. And then I would say don't send every reporter the same message, because you don't kind of want to be seen as a spammer. I'm trying to like give you the best practices of reaching out and having the most likely chance of getting your stuff covered. Don't send every single reporter the same message. Maybe reach out to one reporter, give them a little bit of time, maybe a day or two, see if they see your message. Explain your story. Explain your story in the DM. Give details, not too many details. Like, you don't have to give something that would be a secret, but give enough details to let them know that the story is interesting, that it's worth doing, and that they would be highlighting a problem in the community that not many people know about. Also specify that your client will talk to them. So like I said, in newsrooms, it is so, so very important to have that character, to have that person who is impacted really speak on their own experience. So it's very important to specify that you do have a client that is interested in speaking with them. You may also have to comment on their page. So these days there is that other folder. So you might send somebody a message on Facebook, but they might not see it because it'll land in that other folder. You might have to just leave a comment, like on a picture or on a post saying, like, hi, my name is attorney so-and-so. I sent you a message about a story idea. Keep it short and simple and sweet and quick and to the point. And they will know to go ahead and to check their DMs. And that kind of gets that process rolling of that reporter looking at it, reaching out to you for more information, and then them taking that story idea to their managers and pitching it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about a social media email template. First of all, identify that your client is local. That is a super important thing to identify there. We're generally not allowed to cover things that are not in our area. So identify that the client is local. For example, I have a client in the Savannah area who owns a popular cupcake shop called L.A.S.T. So then they know, okay, well, I'm a Savannah, Georgia reporter, so I think that this is a story that is local to my community, so great, I can keep reading. Identify the problem that your client is facing and then what you are doing to fix it. So, as you know, a lot of business owners struggled during the pandemic, but through good marketing, my client spread the word about her cupcakes and lots of people are ordering them now. Unfortunately, some of that marketing caught the eye of a California business called Icing. Now, Icing is trying to shut down our important locally owned small business Iced. And so we're having to go through a rebrand. She wants to share her story so that people know that she's rebranding, but she also wants to share her story as a warning to other small business owners that they do not want to go through this problem. So identify why this problem matters now. This problem matters now because more and more people are starting a small business every single day. So can you imagine how many of our local businesses here in Savannah are under threat of having to be shut down because they do not have the proper tools to search out and make sure that their IP is protected? There's so many small businesses in our area that are under threat now, and this is why this matters. This is a pressing matter. Let them know why it's so important. Identify why your client would be a good centerpiece for the story. You could say, hey, you know what? My client was a single mom. She worked so hard. She lived in her car. She saved up cash to get this cupcake business started. And for the first time in her life, she was able to experience success. And she was so proud of herself, of what she was able to do for her and her kids. And now look at what's happening here. Let them know that there would be a good centerpiece for a story, that they have a good story to tell. Also let them know, of course, that your client is willing to talk to them on camera. All of this is a great way to make sure that your story is told. However, There are sometimes those cases to where you can do everything. You can do everything as a lawyer pitching your story to a news reporter. You can do everything right. And sometimes they may not see your message. Okay, at that point, I would say go ahead and call the tip line. Or they may have reached out to you. They may be interested in the story, but every time they pitch it to their manager is like, no, sorry, not today. Go out on breaking news. Go do something else. Okay, so in that case, be your own journalist. So what I mean when I say that is, take to social media. Get on the phone, go live, do whatever you have to do to let people know what's going on. Use tags, share. Let people know that there is a problem in your community. Eventually, this is going to catch on. It's going to get likes. It's going to get shares, and either that's going to kind of help fix the problem, start the ball rolling on fixing the problem in itself, or that's going to catch the attention of some media outlet out there, and you're going to be able to make that progress as far as getting your story told. So one quick thing I will say, really the best pitches that I have gotten have not been to my email. I do want to make sure to specify that. So I worked at my current station in Denver. I work at an ABC affiliate in Denver. I worked at my current station for, I want to say right around 2 months. I've gotten 8,400 emails in that time. It might be up to 9,000 by today. So I'm going to say email is not the strongest way to make that initial connection, just because oftentimes people may not see it. And what you don't want is for your story to get lost in the shuffle. So I highly suggest, going on social media and reaching out to people in that way. It's definitely going to help you stand out a little bit more. Okay, so we kind of talked about the important elements in a story pitch. And so I want to kind of walk through this one. So here's a story pitch that came into the newsroom. It actually came to a person who works off air, but he got in touch with me about it. So this is why it's important to know people in a newsroom. A friend pitched him this story, and then so he told me the story. I told my manager the story. The story ended up on air. So first of all, the pitch started out saying, I'm looking for a reporter to do what I think is a pretty amazing story of survival. So then boom, right there we see, okay, strong language right there showing us that this could be a really strong human interest story. So as I work with a woman who is a founder and CEO of her own addiction and mental health treatment center in Rhino, that's an area here in Denver. It's a male-dominated business in terms of ownership. So what else do we have right here? Since it's a male-dominated business, she's also a minority. She's in the minority. So one thing that is really important right now for news stations to highlight is something called DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion. That's a really big, prominent piece that right now news stations are very, very focused on. So it was good that she highlighted that her client is in the minority. She was a runaway at age 14, 15. It really hasn't been back with her seemingly normal family since. So in this case, we're seeing this is a woman. She is a business owner. She's in a male-dominated industry. She has a story of survival, and she was a runaway. She has an interesting background. All of these things really help to push a story forward when a reporter is presenting a story to their news managers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing my screen real quick, and I'm going to see if there are any questions from me right now as I'm just scrolling down. So I see some of us talked about this gap in the Trademark Tip Lounge. It's a great way to educate people in our community, help them understand what they need, the cost, and how to prepare for that. So absolutely. So a lot of people who really are small business owners, they do not understand or they do not know everything that they need. You can really position yourself to be that expert and let them know what they need. Another way to reach out to a news organization is you can compile a list. So you can do a list with you and your friends, and you can let people know that you're experts in all kinds of different fields. And I did make sure to put this in the outline too. So something that news reporters are always looking for. We're always, right now, there are a lot of evictions going on. We're looking for attorneys that know property law. We're looking for attorneys to talk to us who know criminal law. Always, always, always. It's so significant and so important to talk to criminal law attorneys, business attorneys. Right now, like there are so many people starting their own businesses. There are so many people trying to leave the 9 to 5. So compile, say, okay, you're my friend, you're a business attorney, you do property, you do this, you do that. Compile a list and send it to the news organization. At my station, we have something called a diverse experts list. And this is an experts list that is full of people who are Black, who are Latino, who are Asian, a lot of experts that we don't see very often, people who are women. And that's not what I'm not saying is like people don't want to hear from a white person or from a man. Of course, you want to hear from everyone, but you are in the position to let us know that you're available to speak with us. A lot of times it's really difficult to break down that barrier that exists between professionals and between the news. So just let them know, like, these are our numbers. We're happy to talk. We're happy to hop on a Zoom for 5 minutes. And I do want to let you know, like, a lot of times if somebody's contacting you for an expert opinion, they really don't want any more than 5 minutes of your time. There have been times where I've interviewed an attorney who would just, had a quick break in the courtroom, and he just hopped on his phone real quick and did a Zoom with me, explained something real quick, and I was able to right away pop that into my story, and we were able to keep it moving. People were able to see that he was an expert, and I was able to help our viewers be more educated on the topic that he knew so much about. So I would say creating that list of diverse experts and just sending them out to the news stations is another great way of really just making that connection with people. So I showed you just recently, and I'm going to actually pull that back up now. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so I showed you just recently this pitch that came into the newsroom about a person looking for a reporter to do this story on survival, and that she's opening an addiction treatment center and that sort of thing. It's a male-dominated industry, so a story did indeed come of that, and so I did send that video of that story to Nina and company, and so they can play that for you now.
That surrounds her. You'd never imagine the chaos that overtook Christabel Stansberry's life.
I experienced homelessness, I experienced domestic violence, I experienced being used in ways that I wouldn't want anybody to be used.
A heartbreaking pattern that started when she was just a kid.
I was a methamphetamine addict for a while, and then later I just drank alcohol. abusively.
Stansberry battled addiction for years.
I got to learn about the way drugs and alcohol react with my brain. Like, they light up my brain. They fill receptors, and my brain acts a certain way towards those substances that maybe it won't affect another person.
Part of what put her on the path to recovery, addressing her underlying trauma and finding other things that brought a spark into her life. She took a recovery program that had her volunteer with a business.
I started with implementing a billing system for someone. And, I just started with these smaller tasks, and then I started building on that and building on that and building on that. And, I found out that I was good in this area of being able to put the building blocks together for a business, and then also being able to bring a very unique perspective to the table of somebody who's, gone through this.
She opened Chrysalis Continuing Care in November of 2020.
This is our group room.
Bringing that same perspective to Brett Mendes, who says treatment couldn't have come at a better time.
Things have not gone well. Nobody shows up at a place like this because life is working out.
One of the things that you said that really stuck out to me that was so powerful was the importance of living a life that is worth staying sober for. Can you talk about what that is for you?
Taking the time to invest in relationships, being willing to promote them in my life to a level of status. A lot of those things are not just valuable, but they're challenging.
Addressing the root causes of addiction, then taking on challenges that could lead to a different path.
I really wanted to do something that was big.
And now she's helping others do big things too.
There has to be a safe place for people to let down those walls and truly be able to recover.
And so I just wanted to share that with you all to just kind of show you the process. So your pitches, the things that you send to reporters, creating these relationships can really lead to that point of seeing what you just saw, of seeing that story put together, seeing that moment for your client. Imagine your client's problem and what they're going through being put in that light. So yes, it can all start pretty much with a simple DM. I'm gonna pull up right now another example of just a really great DM that I got that kind of goes with that template that I was talking about earlier. So I'm going to share my screen once more. Okay. So here it is. So this person reached out to me. I did not see the DM at first, but I check my other folder quite a bit. So this is a PR person who has a Instagram page. They said, "Hey Jessica, hope you don't mind me writing here." They put right there at the top, I'm in Colorado. They put right there, "I represent an incredible Coloradan that I thought might be a great fit for your segment." So what did I know? Automatically my radar is going off okay, that's a story for me because it's in Colorado. Yes, I want to learn more. Okay. Now she's talking about a person and she leads with this person's incredible story. "I represent a woman who was diagnosed with breast cancer at just the age of 31. And so she started going into chemo. And after she got out of chemo, she decided to start she decided to start a nonprofit to help other people who are going through what she's going through, to help other moms who are dealing with cancer." You have people who you are helping start nonprofits about things that they really, really care about. That can be your client on the news talking about why they started their nonprofit, the things that they went through. So many people who have incredible stories that other people need to know. And you have people who are doing important things that can help others. So really, you're doing a service to the public. to let people know about the things that your clients are experiencing and the ways that you're helping them out. Because just the same way that you can highlight your client, you can also say, now, if y'all want to donate to her nonprofit, you can donate, through her GoFundMe and that kind of thing. If you want to start your own nonprofit, here's how you can do it, or here's how we started her nonprofit. And you can kind of walk people through those steps, and that they know, okay, if I want to start a nonprofit, okay, boom, right there. There is my expert. So I'll be wrapping this up here pretty soon. In conclusion, reach out on social media. I think social media is king right now. Email is not as, there's just so many emails that we get. We might not see it. So I say reach out on social media. Number 2, make it local. Let people know that there are important things that are happening in their very own community. Tie it into current events. Say, hey, you know what? It's National Small Business Week. There are so many people out there who are new small business owners that I want to give them some tips on how to make sure that they stay in business. Or, it's National Business Week. I want to make sure that I'm helping people learn how they can start a business and not go through all of these problems. It's Mother's Day. I have an amazing mother that y'all can highlight. Tie it to a current event. Also, find the hard news angle. There are oftentimes statistics behind what our clients are going through. So add those statistics into your pitch. I found stats and I included them in your outline here. I found stats about how businesses with trademarks make so much more money over that first 5-year period than businesses without trademarks. Okay, that's your hard news angle right there. You can take it even a step farther. You can say, okay, minority businesses are typically underfunded. They might be some of the most at risk to make the least amount of money when they first start out. That's a problem. Highlight it. Let people know about it. These are things that typically reporters don't know. It might be old news to you. It's new news to them, and it's going to be new news to a lot of people in the community. Number 5, don't just have an expert, have a person who is impacted. So I do say, go ahead and send in that expert list. That's going to be very important for when a news reporter is doing another story, a story on somebody that's not your client, and they say, hey, you know what would give people an extra bit of information? I need to call an attorney, right? So I would say go ahead and send in your expert list to a news station. But also, if you're pitching a story to a news station, make sure that you have that client who is impacted, ready to go, ready to talk. This one here is a bonus, but if you have pictures and video ready of something important that's going on, go ahead and send that to the reporter. It's so easy these days for us to hop on a Zoom call with you. And if you send us some pictures, if you send us some video that you took, holding your cell phone, landscape, and you took some good video and you can send it to us, then that really helps us put your story together then and there and get it on air and get it online sooner. And so I just wanted to put this, contact me page up here. You can contact me 1-888-262-9272. You can also email me, admin@markmelegal.com. I would love to hear from anybody who has any questions, who wants any clarification on anything. I love this. This is something I'm passionate about. I really, really think that, the more that we bring attorneys really into the fold more of media and the more that attorneys share their stories, share their clients' stories, the more that it's going to help the public. So definitely reach out to me if you have any questions on how you can do that. And I would be so happy to answer any questions that you have. So I see there's a question right here from CLE Harris. So do you ever have to report on stories that make you feel uncomfortable or you feel uncomfortable reporting? If so, how do you deal with them? So I'm very fortunate right now. I'm at a really good news station. The uncomfortable component, there have been times where I have even felt like physically uncomfortable reporting because you could be in a place that's dangerous. I've been reporting in places that there's still gunshots like happening like at the time, and so that's uncomfortable. That right there is uncomfortable. Also, early on, I'm not going to hide this at all. Like early on, whenever there was like a Black Lives Matter situation, a lot of news organizations did not turn the proper attention to that. They did not give the proper attention to it. Working in that environment, this was years and years ago when that kind of thing was still budding, and the diversity, equity, inclusion situation was not as strong, especially in rural communities. I did feel uncomfortable sometimes. I did feel uncomfortable with the way I would see things presented, or how I would feel like something was called a riot when I feel like it should have been called a protest. So I would say, yeah, there have been times where I have been uncomfortable. But I'm glad that times are moving forward. I'm glad that I'm in a safe situation. I'm also glad that I've grown in myself, and now I'm not that 20-year-old who is like, okay, well, what's going on? Why can't we say these words? Why are you saying it's not a protest? To where now I can use my voice and say, okay, no, this is a protest. This was not violent. This is what happened. I don't think that it's the most important that this person had THC in their system. It's important that this person was murdered. It's finding your voice after a while can cut down on those uncomfortable moments. But yes, there have been uncomfortable moments. Would you suggest we reach out to newspapers? Also, yes, I suggest absolutely reaching out to newspapers. I would say newspapers, especially local newspapers, they have very strong readership. They really help to expose a lot of inequities. They seem to invest a lot in their investigative units. So I would say absolutely reach out to newspapers also. Reach out to those reporters. Really, every reporter across all kinds of platforms are always looking for stories. So newspapers, yes, incredibly valuable. Yes, still in 2022, still valuable. Well, I think that seems to be all of the questions for now. I just really enjoyed presenting to you all, so thank you so much for listening in.
Awesome. And give me 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can call in. I have a mentee that literally was trying to figure out how to join. I'm gonna see if I can bring her in audio wise so she can ask you a question.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna ping you. If not, then I don't know if you can cover stuff for people in pre-law trying to prepare. She's in business school right now. So she's trying to, yeah, she's at business school at the University of North Alabama after finishing at UAB. So she's actually here in Birmingham. So if you can give any advice on that, that would be helpful. So I don't know what's happening with software and technology today, but for some reason I can't bring her on stage to talk to you. So I told her to come specifically to yours because of her interest in entertainment and sports law, and she wants to go into the podcasting world and all over. So I thought this talk would be perfect for her.
Yeah, that would be amazing. I'd be absolutely happy to speak with her.
Yay. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about what you would give advice or a challenge for younger people trying to get into, because I know that you gave a lot of advice about trademark attorneys, but some of the people who are here are new to practice. Like they don't even really know how to pitch a story, and they only really feel confident in it once they get on camera. Like I was so scared when I went on the news the first time, like
Not here.
up there, and I was like, Okay, cool. I've never been on the news before to talk about this. What if I'm wrong? And so I got some coaching and stuff. I don't know if you're familiar with anybody from Birmingham, but Eric Guster, he's very good at coaching on like what not to say on the news and how to handle yourself a lot better. So I was a lot more prepared. But then I got on there and they were just talking about COVID-19 and they were just really angry about it. And like nobody would ask me the questions I thought they would ask me. So maybe help people understand like what to do when you have like a live call-in option, because that's what I experienced and I was just not prepared that it was going to be COVID-19 and like whether or not that rule is an accurate rule or is it allowed or why do I have to let these people treat me this way. So kind of not being prepared for when you get on the news and kind of being hit with curveballs.
Okay, so I would say the live call-in situation is one of the worst situations to be in. So I'm so sorry that you experienced that, Nina. I, you know
It
that
was hard. It was hard.
because they can come up with questions that you're just like, wow, no, like I don't know even the basis of that. So I would say if you're in a live call-in situation, I would say just say what makes sense. So honestly, at that point, don't say what's necessarily legal advice all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just say what actually at that point does make common sense, and then explain that okay, we're in a completely new situation. We haven't recently dealt with a pandemic of this magnitude, and so in a lot of situations the laws are undecided. A lot of things are still unclear, and a lot of things vary in different jurisdictions. And so, in these situations, in these situations, you have the choice right now at this point to either follow the rules or not, and we're going to see ultimately in the coming months and years how your response is going to play out,
Wow.
because that's the truth. At this point when there's so many things that are changing, and especially a lot of times people have questions about the internet and that kind of law. Technology is moving faster than the law is. It's just the truth, and it's okay to let people know that.
And then the last question is kind of the what to wear question. Like, what do you wear? Like, kind of like for you, like, we're always in this space since we started yesterday, talked about like being yourself. Like, how do you encourage that for people in this field? Because I think a lot of us think that like we have to be some kind of way, put the weave in and whatever on the news. What is your recommendation to really hone on being yourself and what to wear? Because I think a lot of people choose not to do certain things on the news because they think it's like too flashy or showy. But what's like over the top, and then what's like you can totally do that, which is like a normal minority woman experience.
Right. So I would say they really do. They like bright colors. They like for you to wear bright colors. Just because it brings attention to you, makes you pop on air. Probably not something that's too busy, so nothing with a whole bunch of colors on it, nothing with a whole bunch of like frills or anything that would kind of distract from what you're saying. You want to make sure that what you're wearing adds to what you're saying. So I would say that's a really important component. As far as the hair, I would say, you know what, do what you want. I'm kind of tired, as a woman of color, being told what to do with my hair, my hair being political one way or another. Do what you want to do with your hair. Just make sure that whatever you're doing, any way that you present yourself is adding to your message and not distracting from it or not taking away from it. And no, braids and an afro should not be considered distracting from the message that you have to give to others.
I love that. And so we're going to ask you to just leave everybody. I've asked them to do is leave them with a challenge or something that after they listen to your talk, what are you asking for them to do? What is their tangible? Like, you need to do this or try this or use my template. I literally put it in there for y'all.
Yeah. Yeah, so let me see. What page is my template on? So I think my template starts on page 6, goes to page 7. It's pretty short and sweet and to the point. I say just go on ahead and reach out to people. And if you feel like you are not an expert or you're kind of worried about having something valuable or good to say, I would say just reach out, because you are going to know more as an attorney than the reporter is going to know about the law. That's just a fact. And also, if you're concerned about not having, the proper expertise on different things, call your mentor. Call your mentor who cares about you and say, I have a chance to be on the news. Can you help me kind of flesh out some of these ideas so that whenever I'm speaking on the news, that I share the proper information? Um, and then just do it. Just do it. There are so many people out there, I've learned, doing things that have no idea what they're doing, and you know what you're doing. So reach out, get an expert to help you, brush up on certain stuff, talk it over with a colleague, and do it. Reach out to news organizations and make it happen. We need you. The public needs you.
Awesome. And for my people who just want to, send the template to you and have you look it over, what's the best recourse for them to do that? And then I have one more question because it just came in and this is actually really important to a lot of us. So, have any tips on posture, position, and where to
Yeah.
look? This is like literally key for our social media influencers out there that are trying to be their own journalists, as you recommended. So, and I'm going to again try to bring my mentee back in before we close out, because I really do think she needs to talk to you, and I feel like she'll feel a lot more confident in her entertainment space, because I think that's really hard. So
Good. Okay, so I think the question had like tips on posture and positioning and lighting and things to wear. So I actually have like a little light right here. So you can pick up a light, pick up a light from like Five Below. I think this one cost me like $5. And so that's always really helpful. Do better than I did today. So there's construction going on at my outside of my apartment. It's a brand new apartment. And there's one being built right behind me. So I was planning to do this in the back room, but something that they did cut off the electricity in that room. So I went to the bathroom. You can plan to be in the best possible space, and I highly suggest it, but sometimes you are where you are. And like I said, like I've had an attorney just, pop out of a courtroom real quick, hop on the phone with me for like 2 minutes and explain something and be done. I would say, honestly, thanks to the pandemic, things have gotten a lot more casual, and you can do stuff like that. And what I like about that is that it provides more people access to being on the news. Everybody has the phone, that kind of thing. So I would say, yeah, posture is important. You might not be sitting down though during your interview. I would just say, whatever you do, put your best foot forward. Don't overthink it. The first step is just getting it done.
awesome. Well, I am just going to let us close on out. I, for some reason, cannot make technology work. So I'll just let her know to reach out to you. If anybody wants to reach out to you, could you drop it in the chat for them really quickly? So I can just copy and paste it and send it to anybody else that might want to send their first template pitch to you and see if it's right before they see it through. So thank y'all got it, but y'all now have her information. So if you want somebody to just kind of look it over, do it one time, but after that, you know what I'm going to tell you to do. So after one, don't overstay the welcome, okay? Just appreciate the favor, and then trust and believe that if you need extra help, y'all know what to do. But again, like literally just connect with people, ask them one time, and then after that, trust that you can do it. Like I literally think this was very helpful for all of us trying to pitch media brands and people all the time. And I literally was hitting up sponsors on social media, like, come on, sponsor this event. And they were literally on the edge. So when I send them the live analytics, it's gonna be great. So now I've learned so much about how to continue and really close that deal. So Jessica, I really appreciate you. Of course, Waylene, put our CLE code up here on the screen. We are literally about to bang out with this bop. Y'all got one more talk. It's a 17-year-old virtual assistant, y'all. If y'all missed this talk, you just missing out on an opportunity to pour into this girl who literally impressed me. And I'm not that impressed by a lot of people. So if I'm impressed, look, let me tell you. So y'all better come back for her talk. But in the meantime, of course, chill in the lounge. I'll tell you when the talk is about to air. But yeah, let's put this bop up, this CLE attendance code, because this is the final CLE eligible